Hello everybody, welcome back to part number 7 of the Tigaria construction. This is Tigitar here. In this episode we have the boss display mainly to get through. So this would be my idea of displaying basically like boss relics and trophies, but in addition to just simply having the trophy and or relic available for viewing, I wanted to try and produce a larger, more fulfilled kind of display case with each dedicated to the different bosses. So I start off with the idea that, this is something I want to do up in the top center, right above the main core that we already have in place. And I start figuring out roughly the size of each capsule to do. And then I go ahead and start laying out basically how I want to arrange them in a visually appealing way that sort of fits the rest of the theme of the base and the layout. So I knew how many different bosses there were. Actually, let me go ahead and I can double check how many there are. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say like 27 or something like that. I always forget to pull this up before I start recording. But it's not like I don't have enough time to fill doing certain things while I'm doing my commentary here. We do have a slightly shorter episode than usual, actually, as far as the time-lapse segments go. It only takes me about an hour and a little over an hour and a half of time-lapse time. I suppose a lot of this section's time would also have been spent off camera, not specifically building, but collecting and organizing boss items and stuff. Making sure that I did have all the relics and all the trophies, which I think I did have to actually do some grinding for some of the trophies here and there. Let's see here. I passed it. Okay, coming up on it here. Okay. Next I do the boss display. Here we go. Okay. 28 different displays. Dang, I was off by one. So I counted up to 28 different boss displays, and this does include each individual boss from the pumpkin and frost moons and stuff like that. It does not, however, include like certain mini bosses, like I guess you could consider Dread Nautilus. But I only built a display for the bosses that had their own relic and trophy, I believe. Yeah, that must be right. So I guess there are some certain mini bosses that are included within that, being like the Flying Dutchman. So I did have the Flying Dutchman as one of these. But basically, I wanted to build one for every relic / trophy combo that there was, which actually I think every boss or boss enemy, whatever you want to describe it as, that has a relic also has a trophy, and vice versa. The only off the top of my head exception I can think of as far as like trophies that don't have relics would be non-enemy associated ones, like the fishing trophies from the angler, where you get like the goldfish trophy and the swordfish trophy and that stuff. But basically I had the count of total chambers that I wanted to make in mind, and then I, as you can see here, just work out some sort of cohesive like curve to build them all in line with. And being as there is an even number of total displays, I kind of have to figure out how to balance that, make it symmetrical, while still allowing for certain ones like the Moon Lord. I wanted to give priority in kind of the center as the centerpiece, being the crowning, boss of Terraria, I guess. So once I had generally decided on the layout, I went ahead and continued with the rest of the platform framework to allow for exploration and viewing, and so I needed to get that figured out in time with the actual display layout, because I needed it to be explorable and viewable, like I want the whole base to be, really. So I spent a little bit of time trying to decide and figure out what kind of structure would fit and look cool, and also structurally be reasonable looking, I guess. Although I guess I probably don't have to worry too much about that, given that all over the base I just use single, or in best case scenario, like double stair platforms to go everywhere. There's a lot of suspended floating architecture without very good structural what am I trying to say? Oh my gosh, validation. But there's a different word I'm looking for there. You know what I'm trying to say, though. Anyway, mainly the purpose at a baseline is to be able to comprehensively view in a cool way all the different displays that I have. So I designed this little platform route with curved stair sections and small flat platforms to just allow for the player to walk along and see all the different structures, or boss capsules, or whatever you want to call them, individual boss displays. And similarly to kind of the rough theme for the rest of the platforms and core here of the whole of Tigaria, I just go with various curves and spiral staircases and get everything connected in a fun way, I guess, is all there is to it. Now, right at the top, I did try to shift the theme a little bit from straight up, white brick, where for the rest of the platforms I just use the combination of white painted pearlstone, crimstone, and ebonstone bricks. But right at the top center, I did want to transition a little bit towards Moon Lord theme, kind of, and make it a little more majestic. So I messed around with some different block ideas, got some luminite out, and played around with that. Tried some different platforms. And you can also see here and there, when I pop down into the crafting area, you can see my sort of template display, boss display, sketched out, where I have various weapon racks and item frames arranged just as an example to myself, to allow me to reference and symmetrically arrange the various items that I want to display in each individual boss display. I guess that I needed to leave myself some flexibility, because I did want to theme each display after the boss itself that I'm trying to show off. So I wanted a little bit of room to customize, using blocks and colors, each of the displays. But also, each boss has varying numbers of items and things associated with it. So basically, I did want to include at least, well, the core, like I've mentioned, the trophy and the relic, but I also wanted to include all of the weapons and drops, maybe armor and vanity items, whatever it may be, that each boss has. So the different bosses have different numbers of items and stuff that they drop. So in each individual boss display, then I had options as far as how many different items I needed to include and how I wanted to arrange them. Each one does, however, fit the core pattern of this individual specific size layout, with the relic here in the center, which is the first thing I do. I just place all the relics down, and so that I have them organized in terms of layout, I know which one goes where. My general idea was to put just in terms of game progression, basically. So starting with like King Slime as the earliest boss in terms of progression, and I go ahead and start what am I trying to say? Furnishing, but making unique each of the displays themed, or I guess building the theme in. That's what I'm doing. So for King Slime, I wanted to do slime blocks and slime walls, for obvious reasons, and then figure out how many different items there are to go along. Basically, each boss I already decided which items I would want to try to include, and so I had all of those organized and prepared. So I knew how many weapon racks and item frames and mannequins and whatnot I wanted to include. I think at the baseline, every display does include basically we have the relic, the trophy, but also I wanted to include the music box that plays the theme for each of the bosses. So I wanted that as part of the display as well, which I think you can see I should have already placed down in the King Slime display. Many bosses do share the same battle theme, so there is some doubling up there, but that's not a big deal. Just wanted that to include as part of the theme. The next is the Eye of Cthulhu after King Slime, and I basically just built a standard little overworld forest theme as far as the biome and stuff goes, and just furnished it with generic I guess what the unthemed furniture. I'm trying to, what theme do candelabras, the regular gold candelabras, fit into? They're just kind of unthemed, which is kind of what I wanted for the regular forest Eye of Cthulhu. You know, you're just living in the forest biome to start off with, and you fight the Eye of Cthulhu there around your base, 99% of the time. Following the Eye of Cthulhu would be the Corrupt and Crimson bosses, I guess. So I first went for the Eater of Worlds, and themed that for the corruption, obviously. So I got the lights to go along with that theme. I did choose to use ebonwood lighting, furniture lighting, instead of, say, the Legion furniture lights. I had ideas for that. Actually, did I? I'm trying to think now why I would have chosen the ebonwood furniture over the Legion. I can't remember for sure, but it could have been the color of the light produced itself. I was a little bit more desirable Same thing with the Brain of Cthulhu here, themed it towards the crimson, and I think I do use shade wood for the lights here, as opposed to flesh. But now that I'm thinking about it, I initially thought like that I would use the lesion / flesh furniture lights for like the next tier of Corruptor Crimson bosses, but that just goes to the mechanical bosses, which are themed differently. I use I end up using cogs and like steampunk theme to represent the mechanical bosses. So I don't know what I probably just don't end up using the lesion and what are they called, flesh furniture types. But anyway, moving on from the crimson, we go to Queen Bee, the next boss that I placed in progression. And so I built a little beehive themed display and then threw in a whole bunch of bee themed items. There are, as you can see, a lot of bee items from Queen Bee, but also just similarly themed from like that little mini biome. After that, I had Skeletron, which allowed me to build a little bone themed display. And my idea for this was to somehow build the background with the face of Skeletron sort of imprinted or sketched into the whole display itself. And I spent a little bit trying to figure out how to do that, what the best way was. So I tried like getting spikes out, and I don't actually remember now. I don't think it's spikes that I end up going with, but it could be. Oh, maybe it is. But when actuated, they become a lot darker, so they do actually stand out in front of the bone block walls there. And so it kind of adds a cool little Skeletron face feel for the display, which worked out really good actually. Not nearly as many items themed for Skeletron as there was for Queen Bee, for example, but still plenty to get the whole display fully fleshed out. And then after that, I needed to move over to the Deerclops, which obviously would be snow and ice themed. So I grab a few blocks and a few different furniture items to get that going. Deerclops also has quite a few items associated with it, but not quite as many like direct biome associations, I guess. So it does look like, however, that I ended up changing my mind a little bit about my armor mannequin choice, because I initially used like shadewood and ebonwood armor to display with the Eater of Worlds and the Brain of Cthulhu, but I think I end up changing that for the more accurate and better to display shadow scale and oh man, what is the crimson armor called? Wait a second. Shadow scale and it's got to be just like crimson armor. I don't remember now. It's just got to be crimson or something. Anyway, moving on to the final pre-hard mode boss, the Wall of Flesh. Built a little underworld theme display, and I even included a little miniature obsidian house design to include in kind of in the background there. Went with a molten armor set to put in, and then the various weapon racks and item frames to go along with. For the lighting in this one, I used the, at the time, pretty newly available ashwood furniture, which still is, ever since that was released, is one of my favorite wood types as far as furniture goes. And then finally we are on to the post hard mode bosses. The first of which would be, I would consider Queen Slime. So kind of similarly to the King Slime display, I wanted it to be slimy themed, but also due to Queen Slime's hallowed association, I needed it to be heavily leaning into the Hallow biome as well. So I guess maybe initially I couldn't decide which one I wanted to go for more, whether Hallow or Pink Slime, but I end up going more with the Hallow and less with the Pink Slime. And then again grab the armor and items associated with, and then get those on display here. I guess now is where I realized that I wanted my the music boxes to be included as well. So I just kind of quickly retrofitted each of the already completed displays and then included the little music box to go with. I didn't initially realize that would be a fitting part of the theme. So I jump now over to the far right hand section of the boss displays, where we take a little bit of a break from kind of the normal game progression bosses, and I'm going to be working on the Old One's Army relics. So starting with the Dark Mage here. Took me a second to remember. She has some cool items, such as the War Table, and then the War Table banners, which she drops, so I wanted to include as a fun piece of display. And then for the lights, I kind of messed around with various lanterns from the dungeon, being as they fit the theme quite nicely, and Dynasty furniture as well, being as it's a kind of a nice neutral theme that fits Old One's Army. As far as the display itself, the blocks and walls I used was just grass and stone bricks and some slabs for the walls. This I felt like was the best sort of neutral theme that just fit the Old One's Army pretty well, and it did the job all right. So I have all three of the Old One's Army bosses fit next to each other here. Obviously, there is some level of progression from between each of the Old One's Army bosses. Starting with the Dark Mage, then the Ogre, then finally Betsy is a pretty end game boss. But on this right hand wing of the boss displays, doesn't necessarily represent the boss progression as much as it does boss themes and pairs and themes. So I wanted to put all Old One's Army together. Then I wanted to put all the both Pumpkin Moon bosses together, and then all Frost Moon bosses. So that's kind of where I landed in terms of the layout and organization for the right hand side here. On to the Pumpkin Moon bosses now, starting with the Morning Wood. Got the relic, the trophy, and all items associated, and then copied the theme up for the Pumpkin display, and then got all of his various drops on there to show off. There were just a couple of miscellaneous individual bosses or semi-bosses. So this is where we get to the Flying Dutchman, and I decided it would be a good place to include it right above the Pumpkin Moon bosses to fill that space in. So I went for a little bit of an ocean themed design for him, just kind of a, I guess, ocean plus ship and pirate theme. It's a little different from the Duke Fishron display, which I get to in a little bit here, where that is more strictly angled towards the ocean itself and its depths. But for the Flying Dutchman, I got like some rope, used palmwood walls, and then mainly that for the background. So it felt more like a pirate ship than the ocean in some ways. Moving on from there, we get onto the Frost Moon bosses. So we've got the Everscream, Santa NK1, and then Queen, the Frost Queen. Right? Wait, is it Frost Queen or Ice Queen? Ice Queen. I think I just saw my cursor glance over it. I could be wrong though. Anyway, for all of these bosses, they had the same theme, so I just copied the same baseline display, which I built with some ice and some snow and some ice and snow bricks, all just sprinkled together there. They all blend together quite nicely, so it worked out pretty well. And then I use a little mix of snow and ice brick walls for the background, along with a center column of candy cane striped walls. And I did little striped features to fit sort of a North Pole theme for those, which turned out pretty good. Then I get all of their various items of weapons and accessories all to display there. Went with the ice furniture lighting for providing light. And then again, they each have their own little, well actually they all share the same music box for the Frost Moon, which thematically fits quite nice and adds to the look. Then next up would be the Martian Saucer, another sort of standalone boss, but has its own relic and trophy, so I had was able to find a spot for it. And with the Martian theme, it's one of the less creative ones, but more simple and easy to execute for sure. Simply building out of the Martian conduit plating, and that's about it. And then I jump back over to the other side to continue evenly filling in the displays, where we are now onto the mechanical bosses. So there are 3 of those: the twins, the Destroyer, and Skeletron Prime, of course. And as I said, my theme that I thought best would fit them would be kind of mechanical, steampunky, given that in the lore, the steampunker, or sorry, no, the mechanic is primarily responsible for their design. So I wanted sort of mechanical movement in visualized to some level. So just some steampunk furniture and walls to fit that, and then got all of their associated items ready to go in a raid. They have a few kind of unique items, like the hallowed bars and souls that are just material items that they drop. I guess kind of similar to the Eater of Worlds and Brain of Cthulhu, how they drop pivotal crafting materials rather than weapons or tools and importance to armor like directly. So I just included the material instead. But I also did want to include the iconic weapons associated with each of the soul types. So like you saw me place the rainbow rod, and I must have had the flamethrower and light discs as well for each of the along with whatever other associated special items I could come up with. Anyway, moving on with the next in progression in my mind, I guess, Plantera. Which, coming up, we have Duke Fishron, which is actually my favorite boss. I think I've mentioned that before. But Duke Fishron is an interesting one because he doesn't really have a space in normal progression. Technically, he can be summoned as soon as you enter hard mode. So you could justify putting him before the mechanical bosses. But in terms of difficulty and loot drop levels and everything, I find that he fits pretty late into the progression. So and because he's one of my favorites, I wanted to put him near the top and center. So he gets to be right next to the Moon Lord, actually, on just to the left of him. Anyway, we have the Empress of Light, very comparable in terms of progression level as I would put with Duke Fishron. I suppose you could argue that she's a lot tougher to take down, but as far as that as progression goes, it's pretty comparable. Actual required progression, though, we have the Golem coming after Plantera, and then those are the actual required ones to beat the game or beat the final boss, following or leading up to the Lunatic Cultist and then the Moon Lord, which obviously I have right in the center here. The Golem is a kind of a cool one, as he's got a whole bunch of different items associated with him, and I was able to theme his display after the Lizard Temple, obviously, and that worked out pretty good. Here we go with the Duke Fishron. Again, as I mentioned, I wanted it to be ocean themed, but I also wanted it to be specially Duke Fishron themed, so I kind of tried to draw in some large fangs, supposed to be Duke Fishron's fangs, into the background walls of the display itself. But overall, I do like I do like how the Duke Fishron display turned out. Lots of themed items, and it came out pretty good, I guess. Honestly, going back and looking at all of the little boss displays there, I do really like how this whole idea came to fruition and materialized. It turned out to be really nice in the end. Then we have the Lunatic Cultist, which I themed after the dungeon, given that the cultist spawns at the dungeon and that's where you have to fight him. Interestingly, I don't have Skeletron with the dungeon theme. I did him with the bone theme instead. So we have the Lunatic Cultist to kind of fit that into the bring that theme into the build, as well as bones. And finally, to finish off with, the Moon Lord, and his theme involves the celestial fragments, basically. So that's what I tried to include. I did sort of split his display into 4 little quarters, each one associated and colored for the various fragment themes. And this one did turn out pretty cool. You'll see when I flash the map, it actually looks a lot cooler in some ways in map view than it does in the actual game view, because of how distinct and vivid all the color contrast is between the quarters. But either way, both in terms of both, it turned out pretty good. I think it adequately displays the grandeur and majesty that the Moon Lord represents within the world of Terraria. Quite a few weapon racks to go in with this one. I will also mention, as you've probably noticed by now, all of the item frames and the weapon racks I just coated with echo coating, so that all of those are actually invisible during regular viewing. You just see the items themselves against the background of the display case. So it makes for a lot cleaner look than having a bunch of item frames and weapon racks. And after the Moonlord was completed, I went back through and kind of just glanced over everything, made a few little modifications here and there to try to flesh things out, some touch-ups, and then I went ahead with the final finishing up of the actual viewing platform and the few pieces of furniture I end up adding in to the actual walkway and everything itself. I also start realizing that I didn't include a teleporter, but it was pretty easy to figure out where that would go. So I got that placed right in the top center there. Again, use a lot of echo walls in order to hide the tops of fences that I then use to reinforce my too thick platform walkways. And then I grab a bunch of various marble furniture items and start getting on with a little bit of furnishing. At the entrance on both sides to this little archway platform that explores the boss display, I have the little sign that tells you that you're about to view the boss display that shows off the 28 different displays. Not really too much to it other than that. I tried to figure out some relatively pattern described way of including the lighting and stuff so that everything was well lit during night. And then just little bits of detail and color here and there, mostly in the form of like the regular pots, but also the larger potted plants, and I end up using those quite a lot throughout the whole build, which are definitely a really nice furniture item to have. Have a few statues included as well. One of the Gloom statues is, of course, placed here. You can see it on the left there, just near the Duke Fishron display. And finally, I go on with the wiring. Now, the wiring for the boss display was a little bit more intensive, given that I wanted 3 separate circuits. One for the platform lighting, the little marble furniture lights that lit up the walkway. I wanted those toggled individually or independently. And then I also wanted the lights within each of the boss displays on their own switch. And then on top of those, I also wanted the diamond gem spark, which each of the relics sit on top of, to be toggleable on their own switch. So if you wanted to, you could turn off the display lights as I'm doing now, and you could also turn off the little platform lights, and then you would just be left with the highlight lights for the relic themselves, or relics, which turns out pretty cool, and I was able to do that here. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I use actually blue wiring for both the regular lights in all of the displays, as well as the diamond gem spark blocks. So I had to kind of be careful not to cross them, and I did, of course, have to use junction boxes here and there. Luckily, though, you can place junction boxes anywhere, or provided there's not already a front, a block or other foreground furniture in the way. But you can echo coat them so they're invisible normally. So it makes compact wiring, even in display areas, actually possible, which is pretty nice. And when I finally finish up the boss display, I sit at 1,034 hours of character time, which puts me, if I were to add it up, about 44 hours of game time spent on the boss display itself. And that would include totally collecting and organizing all of the different items and boss well, the relics, which were easy obviously, but trophies, with some of which I had to grind out a little bit for, and then all the associated armor and weapons and whatever vanity items. So then above the boss display, next I moved on to the armor and vanity display. Of course, a lot of these are now included in the boss display, but I wanted an actual display dedicated to armor and vanity items. So that's what I go about setting up next. So I basically end up gradually figuring out that I want a large curved curved platform, I guess, just completely encompassing the entire top of Tigaria, almost kind of symmetrically opposing the curve of the void vault up above my large single non-stackable item storage overflow. And so that's roughly what I end up doing, is figuring out a curve that basically ties the outside top corners of the boss, or not boss, the block, as well as the tools and weapons display right here where we are now, all in a large curve right up above the top of Tigaria. And on this curve would be where I lay out and arrange and array all of the armor sets and vanity items that you can get. So this also obviously took a fair amount of organization and collecting to make sure I had everything. As far as mannequins go, I counted in the end 112 armor mannequins and another 204 mannequins for vanity items. And the armor is organized or separated in terms of game progression as well. So first the pre-hard mode, then hard mode. Why do I have magic? What does that mean? I list 8 magic armor sets. I'm not quite sure what I mean by that. And then 10 miscellaneous pieces. Oh, okay. I think those 8 magic sets, that would be the magic set basically associated with the different gem colors, because you can craft gem robes out of the various gems. So I think there are 7 of those, plus the gypsy robe, which you buy from the traveling merchant. Also provides basically a set bonus when you pair it with the wizard hat and or the magic hat. If I remember right, that's how it works. Anyway, I think those are what I was indicating. Then on the vanity side of things, 204 mannequins total, separated into miscellaneous pieces after all the other categories of boss masks, accessory type, vanity items, developer sets, Christmas and Halloween sets, and then all of the other complete sets that don't necessarily fall into one of those other themes or categories. So my let's see, what did I end up coming up with? Okay, so in the end I did, basically, as I mentioned, I ended up with the curve from a large oval is what I built. And the dimensions of that oval in terms of blocks turned out to be 1101 by 201. And that gave me the curve that fit pretty well to cap off the base with. I guess if by looking at it, it is a little bit it's not quite as wide as the void vault up above, and the outside edges drop off at a little bit of a steeper angle. Obviously, I guess it's also not completed to the full semi-oval. It's just part of it. And then I start laying out and counting up how much space at what kind of display or distance spacing, that's the word I was looking for, what kind of spacing I was going to be able to do for each of the mannequin locations. So as usual, I do half of it, and that way I can just double it for a final count. Go ahead and do a bunch of counting on the map, try to figure out how many I have, how many I need, and end up eventually figuring out the right numbers to get everything to come out where I want it to. And initially I just have this white painted smooth marble blocks. I think these are white painted anyway. And that basically represents where each of the armor or vanity sets will sit. And then for some of the armors, I mainly like the ore progression ones that are crafted, but maybe some of the boss dropped type weapons too, theoretically, or for example, I switched out the marble squares, or actually not squares after I finish hammering, but I switch out the marble supporting block for different blocks or ores themed for the various armor or vanity that they represent. So then I needed to figure out how to finalize the actual little display for each mannequin, where I wanted the lights to go, or how many lights I wanted even. Got those figured out. And then I crafted a whole bunch of mannequins. Just echo platforms to easily and invisibly suspend marble lamps, I think, or sorry, lanterns is what I ended up doing. And I don't remember for sure how many of these mannequins I have associated item frames next to, but a few of them, my idea was to include, say, specifically for the crafted armor sets, like in progression, I would have like a wood piece to display next to the wooden armor, and copper ore next to the copper armor, or maybe a copper bar or something, but I think I may scrap that idea and just not worry about that, because for most of the armor and vanity sets, that would be kind of irrelevant. As you could see down in my crafting area, I was testing out with different colors of painted mannequins, and I end up going with just white painted mannequins the whole way, and that kind of provides the cleanest blank slate, I guess, to highlight each of the armor sets on top of. Then a lot of marble lantern placing. Some more hammering. A lot of hammering. And then I again go back and kind of at various points revisit the robustness of the platform, and I end up going with doubling up the platform, not with platforms, but by running a minecart track just below the platform itself, and then filling in with walls between the two to kind of bring them together. But this is kind of important because it was around this time, I think, I started realizing the idea of eventually creating a minecart ride that would take you throughout the whole base and show everything off. So I had this whole top section of the base prepared with that minecart rail so that it could easily be included in the minecart ride. Now, unfortunately, I already built a bunch of fairly voluminous displays and had no good way of running a minecart rail through them. So as far as like building a full track goes, that was a problem for a much later time. But for now, it was time to start actually placing up a lot of the armor that I had organized already, and vanity sets, of course. So I went ahead and got all my dev sets out. I specially display those in the very center, and I think I actually modify their displays later on even. But all of the progression armor sets just about go on the right side here, and so I get all those out in sequence, get them all put into place. Along with the progression armors, I have the masks for the bosses. Funnily enough, all these masks are displayed right below them, each of them in their own boss display specifically, but in that case they're displayed in item frames and not actually on mannequins. Man, for some reason I've got the yawns pretty bad. Anyway, the mannequin display of the boss masks is just sort of a little bit more, well, it's another variation of display to include along with the item frame placed version that's down in the actual boss display. So then I end up realizing I offset everything by 1, so I have to go back and scoot everything over. I don't remember exactly why or what I forgot about or wanted to change, but I probably just miscounted or something. Got everything shifted over, and then finally, after that was laid out, start going on the vanity items, which all continue onto the left-hand side here. As far as like rare or difficult to acquire vanity items, I'm trying to think of if there are any crazy outliers I could talk about. In my memory, basically from almost the entire time that I've played this game, the one of the most elusive vanity items for me has been the plumber's cap. It drops from bone serpents and fire imps. I want to say just those two mobs, if I remember correctly. And I remember setting up various farm attempts and different things to try to get them, and had a lot of trouble getting the plumber's hat or plumber's caps. So that's, if there's anything I could in particular call out, it's those. Of course, the developer sets obviously have their own special rarity based on their drop rate and everything from hard mode goodie bags. And to signify that rarity and status, I did end up going back to include them each with their own little marble enclosure for the developer sets, which definitely sets them apart from the rest of them, no pun intended, and really highlights them in a cool way. So that definitely works out very well. I decided to give each of the platforms a little bit of a robustness improvement, so I added them platforms on the sides within the just marble platforms and wrought iron fences to give them a little character, and that definitely helped out and made it feel less empty and spacious, I guess. It was a little too spread out. Which is one thing that I kind of tried to do in general with Tigaria, was not crowd out items like I did most everywhere in like Circa Terra. All the items displayed are pretty crowded and tight. So I wanted to change that for Tigaria, and one of the reasons, or that was also one of the reasons behind not building a completely inclusive, enclosed structure. I wanted to have freedom and space to let each item breathe kind of on its own. I did go back, and after having the arrangement in place, changed some of the marble out, kind of as I mentioned earlier, to blocks or items themed with towards the armor or vanity that they are displaying. So that added another nice level of thematic connection. It did kind of break up the cleanliness and the smooth display, but I think it was worth it to add that level of character to each of the armor sets, mainly the armor sets. I'm glancing over my build notes, and when I got close to finishing the vanity and weapon, or vanity and armor display, I took a little bit of a break, and I noticed that I did have these areas underneath the armor and vanity display, where I had this gap between that and, on the right hand side, the weapons, and on the left hand side, the blocks. So I wanted something to sort of fill this area in with, and I came up with a couple smaller display ideas to fit in, one being the kites, and that's what I end up going for on this right hand side here. I collected and organized all the different kites that you can get, and then I needed a place to display them. Now, an important part of kites, both in Terraria and not, is flying them. So I wanted to also include the ability to test out and test fly all the different kites. So my idea was to build on one little floating island section a kind of like a gazebo or structure just to hold the kites themselves. And then next to it, I wanted to have like a runway or greenery or park or something to allow for the testing out of all the different kites. And that is what I tried to do on the right hand side here. Built this wide flat island to test fly kites on. So then I just had to figure out how to best fit those ideas together. Built a little bridge between the platforms, and then started working on the structures. I guess actually, now that I look at it, I instead, before fleshing out each side, I actually copy over the general platform or floating island sizes on either side. So I then copy that on the left hand side, because on the left I wanted to build the golf display, and I felt like that would be a similarly sized and intensive section of display to build, both pretty small relative to everything else, but it was a good space to include it in. So on one hand, the kites and the space to test them out, and on the other side, the golf items and a place to test them out. So basically, I wanted to build a little golf driving range, or to oppose the park for flying kites on the other side. And then the little building itself would be on the closer interior located island. For the golf side, instead of kind of an open park gazebo like I had planned for the kites, I wanted to do like a little golf club building. So that was all basically my idea that I was going off of for that. So I got the island in place, got the lawnmower out for the golf course. Well, it's not really a course, it's just a little putting green, if that. And then I went to start designing the little golf club building. What I ended up coming up with was the AG Golf Club, which I think I may have talked about in the last, or maybe not last, 2 episodes back, where I was talking about the painting displays. Because one of the painting designers is labeled as AG Golf, and I figured it sounded to me similar enough to golf that I would just name my little golf club after that person. So that was what I did, and I came up with a simple, small, compact little clubhouse design. I actually really like how this small building came out. The whole roof, in color and texture, turned out really nice. I think I used teal paint, if I remember right, and what was it? It might have been Dynasty wood for the exterior perimeter of the roof, and then I think just copper shingles for the interior roof, and then did a curved little forward-facing peak design in the middle as well, fairly subtle, and then used, I think that's probably just iron fences, although it could be pearlwood fences to add the little ridge bumps along the roof. And then I added a little awning in the front of the building on the right hand side, and then on the back of the building to the left a bigger awning to open up into the driving range, which basically continues over to the flat wide island. And then the interior design, I just went for anything that felt like it fit the theme. Some painter purchased wallpaper, as well as large bamboo walls to act as beams, support beams, and then a smooth, that'd be blue Dynasty wall for kind of the main interior space in the inside. Two pretty small windows, and then some basic kind of shelving shelves to go above the little fireplace. Oh, this, I think now we're not too far beyond when the Rubble Maker came out, so I got that out as well for this, as well as the entirety of the rest of the builds, where I really take advantage of the Rubble Maker and all of its awesome furniture options. But generally, go for just interior furnishing to fit kind of the idea in mind. Mostly go with Dynasty furniture. I felt like that theme fit nicely with the feel that I was going for. Had a few different little golf paintings to include. Got to make sure there are lights, and then importantly there are some golf items that I wanted to include. So like the trophies, which honestly at this point I had not explored all of the golf items very thoroughly at all. So this is like I remember actually setting up a temporary just super long golf course in my other main playthrough world, where I just golfed balls super far in order to acquire a lot of golf points, which then unlock different items purchasable from the golfer. I had no idea any of that even existed before this, but I needed to do that to get all of the golf items, which of course I needed to display in Tigaria to have a complete golf display. Do a little inventory cleanup there as I got the baseline furnishing all set up for the clubhouse. Grow a couple of trees, and then I move over to the little driving range. I guess actually this is the little structure that I launch into the driving range from, not actually the back porch of the clubhouse. But here I basically build a gazebo outdoor structure to just show off the different golf items, mainly the clubs and the balls. I think was my hope for this for here. So wanted to figure out a cool way to include all of those, and I'm trying to think now. You can include the golf clubs onto weapon racks, which displays them larger than in item frames, obviously. I don't think you can include golf balls in the weapon racks. So instead, I go with the sort of shelf ledge trick using wooden planked walls or what they're just called planked walls, I think. One of the most prominent building tricks and techniques, I guess, that I use in many applications now. I don't think we haven't built Guido's paint shop yet, my paint and display, but in that build I really heavily lean into the planked wall shelving. And here you can see kind of how it works. I built an offset section of the structure here to put all of the golf balls in on little shelves, which when you place the echo walls with echo coded item frames in front of them, you just have the bottom two walls of behind the item frame being the planked walls. It provides a really nice little shelf that the items, when placed in the item frames, which are echo coded, appear to sit on. So it works really nice. It is super satisfying. So that allows me to get all of the golf balls down. A few of the other little items here and there. We got the golf whistle, the golf cart keys, and whatever else little items there are. Lots of different colored flags. I played around with what color worked well. I ended up easily picking the yellow golf flags, or whatever they're called, to accent on top of the clubhouse roof and the little gazebo roofs. And they really work nicely to oppose or complement and contrast with the what are they called? Golden willows? The oh man, I just had the item selected. They're just willows, I think. Willow trees. Anyway, the yellow flags looked really nice. Especially with the teal roof. It contrasts so well to my eye against the willow trees with the yellow flags and stuff. So overall, the whole color theme of this little section turned out really nice. I was super happy with it, and was able to produce a really fun little golf display in the end of things. On the left, I put a little little grandstand set up so that you could have people watching the golf action. Of course, they're also right behind the hole, so anyone driving their ball out from the gazebo stand, whatever, is probably not unlikely to overshoot and smack somebody in the bleachers. But that's fine. Not only did I have all the items on display there, as you can see, but I included them in the chests there in the clubhouse, so that you can, in addition to visually seeing all of the items, you can actually take them out and play golf with them too. So it adds that extra functionality to the items themselves, and really lets you actually interact and see how the golfing actually works. Unfortunately, there's not any sort of actual golf course set up here in Tigaria. It's just this one little test flag or whatever. But that is something that I have thought about, is eventually it would be super fun for me to tackle creating my own golf course world. I know there are many out there. A few really prominent ones on the workshop, but I would really enjoy eventually attempting my own golf course creation. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, after the golf display was finished, I moved on and jumped to the right hand side, where I need to oppose that with the kite display in the kite flying park. So similarly to how I described earlier, I just wanted kind of an outdoors feel, and started throwing together this large-ish. Well, it's actually not very large, really. It's this gazebo design, and then for the roof, I'll mention that the trees, instead of willow trees, I did the cherry trees. Is that what they're called, or are they called sakura trees? They might be called sakura trees, but anyway, the pink-leaved trees instead of the yellow golden willow trees on the left. And so, opposing those colored leaves, I decided to go with this deep green roof color for the little gazebo here. Same with the little platform shelves for the kites to be displayed on. But the roof, I went with, like I said, actually, it's that deep green color, but I think technically I used lime paint. It's either lime or actual green. The thing is, when I actuate the granite here, I used smooth granite and then actuated it. Or did I? No, maybe I didn't. I can't remember. Whatever I did, it turned out to be a nice deep green that opposed the pink tree leaves. That's all. But the color itself, I do really like how it turned out. Working with the brown, the reddish brown. Whoa, that was great. The reddish brown from like the Dynasty wood, and a little bit of mahogany wood as well, and mahogany fences, both brown painted and not painted. So the exterior, like the two side columns that support the gazebo, are actually all, I think those are all just mahogany fences, but the center fence is unpainted, whereas the outsides are brown. Anyway, between brown and green and pink, the colors for the kite area turned out to be nice, so I was very happy with that. And then for the park itself, all I wanted was like some cool little park feeling, simple furniture furnishings. So now that I'm thinking about it, I may have a few too many trees just for a kite flying area, because trees aren't necessarily super helpful when you're trying to fly a kite. But luckily in Terraria they don't interfere with anything, so I was able to, I just ended up using them for extra color and fullness. But pretty simply, I just added a few little benches and a weather vane so you can see which way the wind's blowing, and called that about good for the kite flying area. I don't really think there's anything else to really note about it. Yeah, just a nice little spot to hang out and test out the kites in. I did arrange all of my kites, and I collected them ahead of time so they were ready to be placed. I guess I got to go for the final touch-up tier of furnishing as well, so I grabbed a few pots and some plate, or maybe a few plates, and then some little some nice butterflies in jars and stuff to place around. Oh, I guess the flower wall also provides a lot in terms of just fullness. So just putting a few little shrubs and bushes in the background behind the trees using the flower wall helps quite a lot to give it a nice cozy park feel. I even tried out some seashells or shells here and there, And then finally remembered that I had the rubble maker, and so I got that and put a bunch of that little rubble debris around here and there, and then some flowers and plants to add to things as well. Oh, I did add a little fountain as well in the middle of the park. That turned out kind of nice. And then finally got the kites put into place. Gotta not forget about the lighting and the light switch for each little section. I did want lighting. I actually forgot that I named it the AG Kite Flying Park. I guess I just wanted symmetrically named it after the golf club, so I just named it that. Then I get back after my kind of sidetrack project to the armor and vanity display and start figuring out how to finalize the platform and stairs and whatnot, and then finally get going on adding some furniture. I think I also end up getting a teleporter up here in the center, which is actually pretty close to the teleporter for the boss display, but I could be wrong about that. I might not bother with it. I might just call the boss display teleporter close enough. It's funny how basically with each section I work on throughout the build, I keep realizing things that I could have included somewhere else, or suddenly wondering if I did include something somewhere else, so I jump back and forth here and there between other sections, adding little bits and pieces here and there, or taking inspiration from something I had forgotten about, or something like that. Basically just take my time and arrange various marble furniture sets or setups, statues, and potted plants, potted trees, in order to sort of fill in the whole platform, just to provide like that baseline of character and fullness while you're just running and exploring, and to view the actual armor or whatever item itself is on display. I felt like adding the baseline furnishing of marble and other fitting items really added a lot in terms of the of completeness and fullness. Really makes a big difference as opposed to just walking along a blank, completely empty platform. had to make a few various adjustments to different wiring paths that I had run, and then I get on to connecting all these hanging lanterns with a light switch so that I have that option. I pretty much generally try to include a little, interface in the center of each section, or most intuitive place in each section where I can wire up all of the lights on and off and stuff. And now you can really see kind of in the bigger picture, the shape of the core coming together here. And then I noticed that there were these two kind of awkwardly sized empty places on the in these corners below the platforms next to the spiral staircases. And so I thought I tried to come up with something to put there. And my idea came out to be large, full-size or full-scale recreations of a statue. And so my first idea was to grab just an armor statue and then recreate it basically in full size, where each pixel was an actual block. And so that's what I went to start working on. And it actually was a pretty cool idea. It turned out kind of cool, using different blocks and different shading. I was able to come up with a pretty good recreation of the armor statue, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for in the end. Although it did turn out pretty cool. I instead end up changing the idea out for, instead of a large armor statue, I build my own custom statues. And so I don't remember if I fully get through building 2 armor statues or if I try something else. No, I do try something else. So, oh, that's right. It was so on one side, I wanted to represent the armor and vanity displays. So I built an armor statue on one side and then tried to go for like a mannequin on the other side, which both of them did turn out, kind of neat. But in the end, I wanted to provide something a little bit different. So what I ended up doing was actually recreating a couple of character custom vanity sets, I guess. One of which being Tigitar, my idea for my own custom vanity set, which would be part Minotaur, part Tiger, of course, and my main baseline structure that I borrowed from originally when I came up with this design was actually I'm trying to think. What would one of the developer sets? I want to say Jim's, but I don't think that's right. One of the developer sets has like a big Minotaur horns or something like that, or like the head of a Minotaur. Oh, Will, that's right. The Will's developer set is like the head of a Minotaur. So I took a lot of inspiration from that and made some modifications here and there. And then I actually came up with my own pixel art design for a Tigitar skin, or not skin, but armor vanity set. Back when Relogic was doing their skin idea contest for skins that they would add, or vanity items that they would add in 1.4, I believe. And so I came up with this design then, along with a few other designs, one of which being I named Purple Midnight, which is actually the one that I submitted for the vanity item contest. Unfortunately, it didn't win or anything, so it wasn't included in the game itself. But I still had the design, so I decided to, on one side, rebuild the Tigitar vanity set. And then on the other side, you'll see I rebuild the purple midnight vanity set. Behind the whole build, I just lit it fully with diamond gemspark wall. That provides every block with full lighting, so you don't get the darkness shading effect as you move inwards. So I could actually keep each color what I wanted it to be as far as the representation, and that does provide the best and cleanest look for the statue. But unfortunately, there's no way to like turn that off, so you can't. It's permanently lit. Even in night and with all the lights off, you just see the statue glowing, which is cool in itself, I guess. So same thing on the right hand side. I went to I put down my background canvas of diamond gemspark and then designed the purple midnight in front of it. The idea behind this skin was kind of just to fill a theme and color palette that other vanity sets didn't really fulfill very well. If anything, I kind of just wanted it to be sort of lizard or dragon sort of creature themed or feel in terms of shape and design. And then as far as the color goes, I suppose we do have shadow scale and ancient shadow scale for kind of purple armors, but nothing quite like this. So I designed this purple and green contrasting vanity idea back then, and it looks kind of cool, I thought, and it worked out good to include here in Tigaria. So that's what I ended up doing. I do, of course, play with different blocks and different paint to try and figure out what colors will be closest as far as matching the pixels that I came up with in my actual design, and with then the green accents to highlight on the purple statue is part of the idea, and then the little orange glowing eye as well. So that's kind of what it turned out to be. And then with both those statues, I was able to pretty much fill in the nice something in terms of the dead space there in those corners. Just a few little details to add to fit into the broader theme of Tigaria. And then that basically will conclude the construction for the boss display, as well as the vanity and armor sets, and then these little statues for fun. Oh, and also the golf and kite displays. Only 1 minute, a minute and a half left in the time lapse, so I'm just gonna let it ride out here for you. As always, thanks a whole bunch for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed viewing some of the progress. Thanks a lot for sticking around if you have, and I hope you have an outstanding rest of your day.